Rewatching the Bama LSU game is kind of even more fun than watching it the first time.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel in just a little bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being an everydayer. And thank you, newbies, for being here. So we appreciate all y'all. Jimmy, you have already begun your thorough rewatch of Bama LSU. I definitely want you to get into any nuance that you discovered, but I want to throw this out there. I know this isn't exactly going to be the top of everybody's list. Is anybody else bothered by the Kirk Herbstreit clicker? For people with anxiety and ADD like me, when he's doing that clicker, he's like, see right here, see right here, see right here. And he keeps going back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, just let the play run. Leave a regular circle the guy and let me watch it. The clicker thing annoys the crap out of me. Is anybody else?
I now that you mention it, I know what you're talking about. I guess it just hasn't bothered me yet, but I will make sure that then it will now. The next time I see it, I will think of this for sure. But in the rewatch, here's a couple things that stood out to me, and really what I want to talk about is Alabama announcing its intentions. Alabama has three primary personnel packages really four. That they use on offense. You can call it 10 personnel. They play in 10 personnel, 11, 12, and 13. And for those that don't know, what that means is the first number is the number of running backs on the field, and the second number is the number of tight ends on the field. Alabama most often is in 11. I would say that's my opinion, watching all the games closely, in terms of what they line up with most of the time, or more than any other, is 11 personnel, one back and one tight end. The second most common is definitely 12, and 12 and 11 are kind of close. That's one back, two tight ends. Alabama came out in this game in 12, and early in the game, in a non-goal line situation, was in 13. I haven't seen that too much, but to me, they've done it, but I haven't seen it a lot. I would say they lined up in 13 personnel, Luke, probably 12 or 14 or 15 snaps, which is a lot when you're only playing about 60 snaps. That's a lot. And that third tight end, by the way, is Danny Lewis, not Josh Cuevas, although one time it was Cuevas. But most of the time it was Danny Lewis, the 255-pound tight end, not the 225-pound tight end like Cuevas. My point being, when you come out in 13 personnel, you're gonna run the ball. I mean, you've got to occasionally throw it to keep the defense honest, but 13 personnel is telling the defense, we're running the ball. They came out first and 10, first snap of the game, in 12. They normally are in 11. Sometimes they're even in 10, which means no tight ends, one running back, and four receivers. They do that sometimes. My point being, they use 12 personnel almost all the time. When they weren't, they were in 13. They came to run the ball. And that's what stood out to me. It wasn't like a adjustment that they made, like the game started and they're like, we're having some success running the ball. Let's keep doing that. No. This was the plan. Plan A. They can't stop us from running the ball, especially Jalen. So that was plan A, and it worked. Why did it work? Because they executed it well. I think the run blocking was not perfect, not stellar, but it was good. It was good. And those tight ends all over the place. Hey, think about how big those tight ends are, Lou. When you have three tight ends and they're Dupree, Oost, and Danny Lewis, that's seven. I mean, gosh, I've already proven here how terrible I am with the math, but I think that's 750 pounds of tight ends when you're in 13 personnel. So that's that to me is what stood out the most. Alabama's obvious announced intention to LSU: we're running the ball tonight, and LSU could not stop it. Alabama rushed for, I think, 311 yards. Mute.
Yes, I'm muted.
Well, it's easy when I'm doing my X's and O's breakdown to hang on every word, like most everyone should.
I'm muted because I'm in my office. I don't want the phone to ring. And I mean, y'all, I'm so sorry. I mean, it's so frustrating to me. But for those who are uninitiated, and it looks so dumb too. Later, when I don't ever really watch this, but like they're talking, do it on my hand movements, and there's no sound. It's so dumb looking.
We don't watch this show. We watch other podcasts.
By the way, you look like a total floating head in the.
Yeah, I know. I immediately regretted every decision I made before.
If you scoot up more and like get rid of the logo.
I don't normally put the thing here, and the wife's actually here today. Most of the time I record, she's at the office. She's home today for the holiday, so I'm trying to kind of keep quiet and not have all the lights on. And well, here we are, the floating head show.
All right. But what I was going to say before I so dumbly muted myself is just go ahead and tell everybody what 13 personnel is.
Oh, I thought I did. I thought okay.
I didn't think you did, but
yeah, I did. But again, because it is important, because not everybody's going to know that 13 personnel doesn't mean 13 people in the field. 13 personnel means your personnel. What position groups are you using? 13 means the first number is the number of running backs on the field. The second number is the number of tight ends on the field. So 13 personnel, 1 back, 3 tight ends. 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends. Again, Alabama normally is an 11 personnel team, 1 back, 1 tight end. That's normally, or what they do more often than anything else. This game, a ton of 12 and even some 13. And my recollection, guys, and I rewatch every game, but my recollection, Alabama's only used 13 personnel in goal line situations or 4th and 1. In this game, they used 13 personnel on 1st and 10. They used 13 personnel one time, Luke, on 2nd and 8 and ran the ball and made it. I mean, so that's like it's a little bit to me like 1995 Nebraska for your older friends in terms of like, what was their game? They were running the ball. They were running the option. That's all they did. This is Alabama showing up in Baton Rouge, just announcing through use of the personnel packages, we're running the ball. Good luck stopping it. We don't think you can. And they didn't. So why execution? The execution was good, but LSU knew what was coming from the way Alabama lined up. And Alabama only threw the ball, Luke, in this game like, what, 12 times, 18 times, 16 times? I forget Jalen's number. It wasn't much. Yeah, okay. Was he like?
I'll check
it. I think he was something like 12
I'll check
of 18.
it while I'm muted.
I think it's 12 of 18, but there were also a couple of drops. There were some drop balls that's interesting. I mean, you know what I'm saying is people said, well, Jalen took the night off from throwing the ball. I don't think we would be saying that had Ryan caught that deep ball, which was catchable. I don't blame Ryan for dropping that ball under those conditions. I don't blame Jalen for making a bad throw. It was actually a good throw. It was because it was a catchable ball.
Definitely catchable.
I think if it was a dry situation and normal dry conditions, that's a touchdown. But and Ryan right now, if we had him on the show, and we will have him on the show at some point, of course, because that's what we do. But if Ryan was here, if Ryan was here, he would. I think Ryan would tell you right now he should have caught the ball, because that's the standard he holds himself to. And but it was tough.
And it's not just that the ball was wet. It's also that you're running in wetness. So that screws up the timing. Normally, I bet you Ryan would be, what, 1/10 of a second faster on a dry field. So
you're looking up. It's over the shoulder. So he's looking straight up because the ball's over the shoulder. And when he's looking straight up, what's happening? Raindrops are falling in his eyes.
Yeah.
He's looking up and seeing rain and the ball up there somewhere. I mean, so incredibly tough catch. So I just want to say I do not consider it a drop. But he had both hands on the ball.
It all could have been a little better, a tiny bit better. But again, under better conditions, which you practice in, it would work.
But don't you agree that had Jalen just hit that one throw, which he was obviously so close to hitting, we would look at his numbers through the air completely different. Add the one more attempt, one more completion, and then the 60 yards or whatever it was. His numbers would be looking pretty sporty in the air too. So I think people are making too much of, well, we're not going to throw the ball going forward. No, I think this was an LSU specific game plan. And I think against Mercer, they're going to come out throwing because they need to work. They need to work on it a little bit.
I hope so. I mean, I definitely want to see that. Talking some FanDuel. That should be their new jingle.
It will be now. It will be now. I think they could use that legally.
I hope if you did FanDuel, you were able to take John Mechie catching a touchdown last night because, I mean, that'll bring a tear to your eye if you know the John Mechie story. But get ready to take on all NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports bet. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with 150 smacks in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's only at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and partner of the NFL. I do appreciate how you always try to sneak in your own little NFL thing.
The NFL, I get excited about. I mean, I'm an NFL fan, so I mean, to me, that's the best part is that live read and all that great commercials, and it's how I associate FanDuel actually is with the NFL. But I know they do other things.
If you're an Alabama fan, you're an NFL fan. They got dudes. Bryce Young getting a big win in Germany yesterday. I mean, that's on the road, baby.
That's a strange thing to say about 15 years ago.
It is. Okay. One other thing I want to mention about a rewatch. Two things, actually. On Jalen Milroe's long run, the 72-yarder. Again, I know Kendrick Law has not probably done as much as people want him to do. But if you're ever like, I'm kind of down on K-Law, I want you to go watch Jalen Milroe's long run and watch K-Law catch up to the guy, the only guy that even remotely had a shot, which he didn't have a shot because Milroe was, I mean, just boat racing him. So, but K-Law catches up to that guy and for no reason other than just to hit him, blocks him legally. And he didn't knock him out of his cleats or anything, but you could tell he was like, I just want to go down here and celebrate with my boy. I mean, it was heartwarming. Yeah. For an old soul like myself. Then the other thing on that same long run, this again, I know Milroe's taking some shots. I tell you what, somebody in the comments yesterday said, Luke, we've kept the receipts. You've been down on Milroe all year. Are you joking? I bet on him to win the Heisman. I literally bet on it.
I get 50-50 hate mail on you're Milroe lover, and then the other 50% you hate him so much. I'm like, what? I guess if I'm getting 50-50 mail there, must be doing all right.
They were like, we kept the receipts. I was like, okay, because the receipt I have on Jalen Milroe is longer than CVS's. I mean, and it's all positive.
You know, he's had games where he's played really poorly. He played terrible in Knoxville. He did. We were pretty tough on him.
All we said, he looked beat up. And
we were the ones kind of making, quote, excuses for him by saying he was beat up. And I think the numbers kind of show that he was. But we were the whole time going, Milroe wasn't really producing, but he seemed, I think something's a little off. And whatever was off is back on. It was that off week.
Back on, dang it. And I'll tell you another thing. This is another reason. And again, you can talk about the body language at Vanderbilt and, that didn't make some people happy, whatever. You can talk about all that. But here's why Jalen Milroe is the perfect ambassador for the University of Alabama. On that long run, and LSU had already pretty much cleared out the stands by then, by the way. He finds a young fan wearing an Alabama shirt, and it must have been the kid's dad or brother or whatever next to him. And he goes up to that kid and high-fives him and just talks to him for like a second, which probably felt like a lifetime to that kid. And all I could think was, that's the kind of guy I want leading my team. That's what college football is about. Pro football, the player might run up there and be like, okay, Venmo me $5 for running over here and high-fiving you. I think college football is about, hey, let me make this kid's day. And he did.
Do we know this, Luke? Has any Alabama, we don't know that Milroe is going to pull this off. I think it will be significant. As a matter of fact, I think it would be massively significant. And maybe I'm way off here, so this is just off the top of my head. So if anyone listening to the show can put in the comments, which would be helpful if you know this, has any Alabama player ever finished in the top 10 in Heisman voting 2 years?
Ooh.
I don't know that that's ever happened. I mean, our recent winners did not. I don't think Bryce did in 2022. And Devontae wouldn't have the year before he won, and Derrick Henry wouldn't have the year before he won, and Mark Ingram didn't do the year before or the year after he won. But not just. I'm just saying. I don't know that. Maybe AJ McCarron. Maybe
McCarron. Maybe
but
somebody like Bobby Humphrey. Maybe Derek Thomas. Maybe.
We will look into it. We'll look into it. But if Milroe does this, we should champion it. It would be a huge, huge thing to be in the top 10 in the Heisman race 2 years in a row when it's never been done in Alabama history. And again, what I say about
come back and do it a third time.
What I say, and he might, I'll even get into that, a couple of weeks from now, because I kind of think Milroe should come back to college myself. But regardless, I don't think he will. I think he's going to go to the NFL. But I'm just saying, Luke, the best compliment I can give Jalen Milroe, that I mean with every fiber of my football being, is Alabama has had this incredible run of quarterbacks that started with Jalen Hurts in 2016. This run, unprecedented in Alabama history and to some extent college football history. The run of Jalen Hurts to Tua Tagovailoa to Mac Jones to Bryce Young, in my mind, continued with Jalen Milroe. All great college quarterbacks in their own way, all of them different, not all of them equal, but a run of greatness. It began with Hurts. It's continuing with Milroe, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him, that in my mind, as a college quarterback, he belongs with the other guys, and he may end up with 2 straight top 10 Heisman finishes, which prove it or validate it in my mind.
I agree. All right, let's talk first of all, since we're running short on this segment, let's say we do have a basketball game tonight against McNeese State. And I went to the basketball game Friday. By the way, I had a couple of people stop and say they love the show and appreciate that. And also, if you ever see us at a basketball game and want to talk to us, feel free. But I thought the Tide didn't look their best Friday night, but they looked good enough. And Arkansas State's good. They're not bad. They got a dude that's going to be an NBA, at least one dude. And when we had to pick it up and end up winning, we did. We were favored by 25 and won by 8 or 9 or whatever. And tonight we're favored by 20, and we may only win by about 10 or 12, but we'll win. And then we play Purdue. And by the way, Purdue Friday night in Mackey Arena. And Purdue just lost their 7'4" big man who's a freshman starter for the year, apparently. And that's a shame. I'm not here for anybody to get hurt. At the same time, I mean, it does help Alabama, so I'm just mentioning it.
Yeah, I got a couple things. Number one, about that Purdue game, it's important to mention because everybody needs to plan ahead for 5 days. But for those unaware, the Purdue game will be televised by Peacock, and I'm guessing most of y'all don't have Peacock. And as to why it's on Peacock, I do not know. I don't have Peacock, and I might by Friday. But I'm just, everyone needs to know that if you're like, hey, you want to watch the game, well, you're going to have to make a plan to do that, whether that means subscribing to Peacock or going to a bar that might have it or a friend or anyway. So secondly, back to the basketball itself, I think this team needs games like this, Luke. Two things. First of all, they need to play in some close games. They're not going to just beat everybody by 15 all year long. They need to play in some close games and have the last 5 minutes of a game mean something. That helps the team improve. Secondly, they need to learn to win when they don't shoot it well, because teams that are built on great shooting, and this team is partially that, some nights it just doesn't fall. That's basketball. That's the way basketball's always been. It's the way it always will be. Some nights the shots just don't fall. So what's plan B? How are you going to win when the shots aren't falling? And they did. They found a way. And that, I think, is important too. So I know some people might have been frustrated because Alabama didn't look like the Harlem Globetrotters last week or in the last game. But I walked away going, boy, they needed that. They need not a humbling, not a wake-up call, but they need to know, how do you win close games? How do you win when you're not shooting well?
Yeah, totally. And tonight will be an interesting game, and then of course Friday will. And then hey, Auburn got a big win over Houston, another team we play, and both of those teams look good. I mean, our schedule just.
I know some Alabama fans rooting for Houston, but the way it bolsters the leagues. There are league RPIs that matter when it comes to selection time and seeding time, and it helped the SEC. So, all right.
Time to talk a little game time. My favorite time is game time because game time is what gets me into the game on time. And I just love game time. You can go use the code Locked On College for $20 off that first purchase. Terms do apply, but the terms are easy. Go check out game time. Get that app. Use promo code Locked On College. Get $20 off that first purchase. But you know what? All of y'all probably have already used it because I've been sending all these glowing reports about game time. And so you've probably been listening to me using game time, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I've used game time for World Series and for NBA and Major League Baseball and pro football and pro basketball and college and football and basketball and concerts. I've used it for everything. So you need to use it too. You will love it. I promise you, it's the best of the apps out there for these tickets. It's just the best. And you can see where you're going to be sitting. And yeah, Jimmy's nodding in agreement because he knows.
Well, I use it. Use it every day. Look at it all the time. Probably look at it almost every day.
Let's do injury first because this sucks. Q Robinson done for the year, and just boy, that stinks.
That's a blow.
Who would have thought it after? I mean, it sort of hit me like a ton of bricks yesterday because I did not think. I thought the injury was going to be fine, and also Devontae Smith a little banged up, but I think he's going to be fine. But Q Robinson, I think everybody wants to know. And first of all, prayers up to Q Robinson. We're not overlooking your injury. We're not trying to be unempathetic. What I'm trying to say is we also need to think about who's going to take his spot.
Yeah. It's kind of not complicated at all. First of all, he plays the Wolf position. First of all, the normal starter at Wolf isn't even Q. Now, Q plays a lot of snaps, about half the snaps during a game at Wolf. Q's been playing them. But Quay Russaw is normally the first guy out. So Quay will just play more snaps. He's already played a lot. He's a starter or co-starter, or he's a play with the ones guy every week. So Quay Russaw is going to have to play a bigger role. Secondly, and for those that read my rewatch on BOL, that know this because I talk about it quite a bit during all the rewatches, but on a lot of third downs all year, what Alabama will do is they bring in Justin Jefferson because they like his ability to cover at inside linebacker. So they bring him in. And whenever they bring Justin Jefferson in, they kick Jahad Campbell outside to the Wolf spot. So Jahad plays the Wolf. He doesn't start there. It's not his primary position. His primary position is what they call sting, which is an inside linebacker spot. But he will slide down to the Wolf spot on these passing downs. And so sometimes we play with two Wolves. Usually it'd been Q on one side, Jahad on the other. You got a tough matchup there when you got to block Q and Jahad on the same. So that's kind of what we were doing. So I think what will happen, more Quay Russaw, more Jahad at Wolf. The new player that we'll see more often is Yanze Pierre. He will be the guy that's going to be coming in most likely. And Yanze has played some first team snaps. They like him. I don't think the staff is going to be like, oh crap, we got to use Yanze. I think they're like, hey, now we're going to get a better look at Yanze, and I think that he excites them. So that's going to be the plan. I did not mention Keanu Coote's name. That would be an obvious replacement. We're still working at BOL on trying to confirm information. What we have reported is that Keanu Coote did not travel with the team to Baton Rouge this past weekend. He was not with them at all. Now, maybe there is some sort of an explanation for this that will be explained, and this is a non-thing, or maybe we'll find out today he's not on the team. But we'll probably find out Monday afternoon in the Kalen DeBoer weekly scheduled press conference. We'll probably find out then what Keanu Coote's status is. He was not with the team in Baton Rouge at all.
This and an injury like this may change things for everybody. If there's a guy that is thinking about going in the portal, maybe he goes, okay, maybe I don't need to portal so much right now. Let me ask this about Q Robinson. Is there potential for him to come back or not?
No, I think he's toast. And that's so unfortunate for him because Q was playing really well on playing himself into the draft. He was never going to be a day one guy and probably not even a day two guy, but he was playing his way into the draft. And now he won't have that last tape, that last film that he needed. So it's probably going to hurt him a little bit, which is unfortunate because he's kind of just now getting into the draft and now, but I'm still hopeful that he's shown enough. Two things: that he's shown enough to be 5th round, 6th round. I hope he's shown that. and gets drafted and gets his opportunity. But secondly, what a lot of fans don't notice, but I know the NFL does, he's an outstanding special teams player.
Yeah,
I think we remember him for a special teams mistake he made in Knoxville 2 years ago, but that doesn't take away from all the other high quality snaps. He's really good on multiple special teams units. That is invaluable in the NFL. And so I think Q will be drafted. I just think it'll be a day 3 situation for him now for sure.
Lots of potential recruiting info out there. First of all, Dorian Barney, a 2026 guy that's decommitted. I mean, I don't think anybody's shocked. I mean, he committed in May or something.
That's probably why we shouldn't celebrate when we get these commitments from guys that don't sign for 2 years.
Yeah,
thinking
it's just not worth it.
It's 2 years of NIL offers.
And we could get him back.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
But and then Caleb Cunningham, still no definitive news out there. Steve Wiltfong did put a Fong bomb out there that he's going to commit to Ole Miss, but he might not.
He did that with low confidence. Chad Simmons with On3 also believes, his guess is Caleb Cunningham to Ole Miss. And hey, just it would be a big blow. It would be a blow. I'm not spinning it. That's bad in the sense that Cunningham's a fantastic prospect. We not only lose him, now we got to play against him if that switch happens. So it would be bad. Big picture, Alabama's doing fine. Wide receiver was not a priority, as Tim Watts at BOL put this perfectly. If wide receiver was such a huge priority, why were we only taking 2? I mean, we were only taking 2 in this group. That should show.
Circle back to Derek Smith a little harder.
I wouldn't rule that out. Or others, or the portal. There's the Montgomery kid from Florida, Nashawn Montgomery. That's a guy they've always been interested in. They might push harder for him. He's fairly highly regarded. I think flipping another, that's possible. But hey, this is the way I look at it. Any wide receiver class, if you're only signing 2 and one of them's Latsier Brooks, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm good.
And then meanwhile, Ivan Taylor has been crystal balled to Alabama. This is a safety prospect. He was committed to Notre Dame. Then for all the world, look like he's going to flip to Bama. And then Michigan gets involved. He flips to Michigan. Now it looks like he may flip to Bama. And boy, for a guy like me who is worried about safety recruiting, if we get Ivan Taylor, you talk about being good, I'm good.
Yeah, he is a national top 60 player, so this is a big time say. He's not just, it's big time. And this is the son, by the way, for those NFL fans that remember the name, he's the son of Ike Taylor, who was extremely good with the Pittsburgh Steelers for years and years and years. Isaac, so NFL bloodlines, top 60 player, flipping him from, quote, Notre Dame, flipping him from Michigan. Phenomenal player. That would be a huge pickup for Alabama. BOL has predicted Ivan Taylor to flip to Alabama. And BOL, we got a pretty good batting average for those proclamations.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna, just say that Caleb Cunningham's gone. But if we're able to keep Cunningham and add Ivan Taylor all of a sudden, and there's also the kid that's committed to Michigan State that's looking more and more like he may end up in Bama, and perhaps Turbo Rogers doesn't.
And everyone be honest with themselves. Go back in your mind to January, February, March. Go back in your mind to then. Don't be the fan that back then said, you know what? If he signs a top 10 class, I'll be okay with that. And now because of the success, now that we're close to December 4th, if we fall out of number 1, don't be the person that's furious that we fell out of number 1. When 8 months ago you were saying, top 10 would be good. And now you're not number 1 and you're angry. This staff has been unbelievable considering they didn't really recruit this staff, this group for the full cycle. They got here a little late. It's their first summer, their first camp season here, first everything here. Phenomenal job by Courtney Morgan in particular, who heads up the effort, with Kalen DeBoer as the closer. Fantastic effort. No matter what happens with Caleb Cunningham, not spin. I'm not going to be sitting here and telling you guys, oh, it's no big deal. It is a big deal because it's a big loss. It's a big loss. It's not good. But welcome to the reality of 2024. I mean, we know what happens in these recruitments. Alabama's really competitive in the NIL space. They are. They wouldn't be recruiting at the level that they are if they weren't. But that doesn't always mean that you got the highest offer, nor is the highest offer sometimes the smartest thing to do. I have one more quote about that. This is just hypothetical, but some person said, oh, you do whatever it takes. You want to pay Caleb Cunningham more than you pay Ryan Williams? I mean, that's not good business. You know, I mean, you got to be smart about how NIL is not about just giving the kids whatever they want. That they don't even do that in the NFL. They don't give those guys everything they're asking for. It's a negotiated deal. And I'm just saying that it's difficult. You have to be smart. And Kalen DeBoer and Courtney Morgan, they're some smart guys. So just, they've earned my trust quickly.
I'm right there with you. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.